Now then, people, and welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. And it's time for the final word. And it's the final word that I'm really, really looking forward to. I've been getting into heated debates all day on Twitter. And you know, I could have gone at about 11 o'clock. I was like, I'm ready now, let's go. But I had to wait till the kids were in bed and whatnot. But yeah, we're going to do the final word on what. Well, listen, it was a decent performance. Listen, we'll talk about it. I don't want to go on a ramble. What we're going to do, though, is each give our opinions on the current state of Leeds United. And, of course, Jesse is going to be spoken about throughout, I would imagine. I did put a poll in the chat, Jesse in, Jesse out, because I think that's where we're at. Right now. Yeah, it's everywhere, isn't it? The fan base is split. So I just wanted to get everyone's opinion. And listen, we have a wide spectrum of opinions tonight, and that's why it's good that we can do this show. There's 6 of us tonight as well, which makes it all the better for me, because I have to do less work, and these can, it's just different opinions, right? We all want to chat about it. What I am going to say, please do smash a like, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, hit that notification bell. Make sure you check everyone's channels out as well. We've got Chris with the OGs or Leeds TV. We've got Joe on the Leeds United View. We've got Luke at AutoNoBet and Max at Leeds Lately, and the author of the group, Rocco, over at Leeds That. So make sure you check them all out, please. Bully B says proper sausage fest tonight. There's no. Listen, if there's a... Well, I suppose I could have asked Tash, couldn't I? Who else is there? I think that's it, really. So we're stuck, man. We're stuck for female content creators, I think. But what I am going to say before we begin, this is a Bielsa-free zone tonight, people, okay? A Bielsa-free zone. Because what happens is you talk about Jesse and people in the chat will just say, well, he's better than Bielsa. Oh, he's doing better than Bielsa. So let's not talk about that tonight and just focus on Jesse and what he's bringing to the table since he's come in the door. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So, Bielsa free zone. I'm going to kick us off if that's all right. Look, for me, it's 2 wins in 17. We've had 4 wins all season. I don't think it's good enough. I was looking at it earlier, and I know, listen, I know I'm not his biggest fan, public service announcement, as if you didn't know already. But for me, I look at it now and say, Wolves, manager sacked. We're bottom of the table. Chelsea, manager sacked, now in 10th. Liverpool, not as good a win as it looked at the time because they're 8th in the table and are absolutely rubbish. And Bournemouth are 17th and they're dead. So, really, I'm giving him 1. I'll give him 1 win, Bournemouth. The rest, we should have won. The goal got the manager sacked and they're rubbish. Nah, but listen, in all honesty, I don't think it's going great. 10 months he's been in charge now. For me, we're going backwards. Jesse said after Villa, best performance for him. We still lost. I don't agree with that either. I think a lot of what he's saying is just blowing smoke at this point. I think systematically we are brutal. Yeah, we can score goals. Yes, we can attack. But it doesn't mean anything if you can't defend. And I know everyone will say, well, it's because we've got a championship defence. Well, if that's the case, then Jesse needs to stop playing football that feeds into their weaknesses. We're talking about pace. I've heard someone talking about pace. They're too slow. So why are you playing with such a high line then and throwing, 8 men in the box for a corner and leaving Cooper to run back? But it's Cooper's fault that, because he's not fast enough, apparently. Surely you say, right, okay, well, don't all go up, especially within 3 minutes. We're away from home. Let's try keep it tight. But yeah, look, the game's coming up as well. It's a big, for me, it's potentially the easiest run of the season for me. With Villa, you've then got Brentford. Look, that's not an easy game, but obviously in the next 5 now, it's Brentford, Forest, Man United, Saints and Everton. I have no confidence. People keep saying to me, give him time, etc., but I don't have confidence that he'll get results in them games. And if we don't get results in them games, then we're chasing our tail. Because for me, we'll be in the bottom 3. We'll have to make a change, and then you're setting off that new manager on a bit of a downward trajectory, if you like. He's got to come in and really pick the lads up. Where really now, we're getting players in the door. Do you trust Jesse to get the best out of them? I'm not too sure. People say, we can't defend. Well, someone buy some defenders then. Stop buying attackers. And what I will say, you let him buy Rasmus. I'm not, no disrespect, Rasmus is gash. Rasmus has just come in and he's the third in line for the right back position for me. Third in line. You just bought him. We're yet to see Voba. Voba does look good, but let's wait and see. I think the other signings potentially, maybe Adam, I don't know, Aronson was already coming in. Brendan Aronson, that's another factor as well. But I've gone on too much now. You know my thoughts, right? You know my thoughts. And maybe we'll talk about replacements a little bit later on, Wayne. But that's another thing that really, really gets to me. I'm not a director of football. I don't get paid to bring the manager in. So when people say to me, well, if you can't come up with a solution, all right, okay. So because Joe on YouTube, on Twitter, can't give you a manager name, just keep him then. It's not my position. I don't get paid to do that. That's not what it's about. We're supposed to just sit there and say, okay, I'll accept this turgid minging football and go down because I don't know who the next manager should be. I hate to say it, but Wolves want today change the manager. Even Southampton have now won 3 on the bounce. And Nathan Jones is not a great appointment, but they've won 3 on the bounce. And people will easily say, oh, well, what about Nottingham Forest and Steve Cooper? He's got credit in the bank. He's brought him up from the Championship. He's a very, very good coach. I'm sorry to say, Jesse is not a good coach. So for me, tonight, or I said yesterday he could have gone, I think he's got to win the next 2. He's got to beat Cardiff. He's got to beat Brentford. Otherwise, the owners will sack him. I think they will sack him if he don't win the next 2. And listen, Cardiff have just sacked the manager, so they'll have a new manager bounce on Wednesday. So maybe you know what I mean, comes at the worst time for us. But listen, I'll stop talking now, like people have said. Stop talking, Joe, take a breath. But this has all been pent up throughout today. So I'll move it on. And Chris, you're next in line, mate. Talk to me. Where's your head at right now, pal?
Well, to be fair, mate, if people throw that, the bias tag at you, you know me, mate, and my opinion at the end of we won't mention his name, previous manager's tenure, rightly or wrongly. And I fully backed Jesse when he came in, and it's time to go, because what worries me most is he won't even acknowledge that the issues are there that we've got. It's just all bluster and nonsense in his interviews, post-match, pre-match. It's all, sign him up as a public speaker, because my God, your team would walk out the office feeling great about life after half an hour with Jesse Marsh. But as a tactician, if Chris off YouTube can see the gaping issues with our defence, but Jesse clearly can't for me, then it's time for change. It's time for change. And like I say, I want Jesse to do well. I want every manager to do well that's at Leeds United, because if the manager's doing well, the club's doing well, and we can all come onto YouTube or whatever podcast we do, enjoy it, and not sit there wanting to spoon our own eyes out while talking about another hideous performance. Yesterday, it was great in the middle of the park, but if you're not clinical with your actions, to quote Jesse, in either box, you're not going to win football games. And Aston Villa were poor yesterday and still beat us 2-1. That's not good enough. It's just not good. It's not good enough. We had all the chances to win it. Let's not get into the refereeing and VAR, because it's beyond shoddy. And we've seen it again today a couple of times in games. It's pathetic at the minute as a standard of refereeing. But that doesn't excuse the absolutely woeful defending. And I know a lot of people pointed fingers at Pascal. Pascal's had a couple of bad games. He's not a bad defender. He's had a couple of bad games, and he's been hung out to dry this season with having to play left back, because we've got Junior Biscuit Legs Firpo, who can't stay fit, and when he is fit, is just he's Bambi on ice. Voba looks like he potentially will improve that back line somewhat, and my hope is that Max Voba can go in at left back and Pascal can move in at centre back. Yes, he wasn't great against Cardiff, but it was one game, and we know what the FA Cup's like. Let's not mention teams like Crawley Town. So I don't judge too much on that one. But we've got to start getting this defensive stuff right. We've got to start getting these transitions when we lose the ball right. Otherwise, we can have all the Jorginho Routers and Willie Nyontos and Pat Bamfords, Rodrigos, and all the rest of them we want. If we're conceding 2-3 goals a game, we're relying on our attackers to score 3-4 to get us any points. And that doesn't wash in the Premier League unless you're a Man City more often than not, or someone like that. It doesn't work. So yeah, I think it's time for change, mate. We need a proper tactician in to solve the issues out.
Great, mate. Thank you very much. That was clear, concise, clarity. Let's move it on to JUSTJOE. Do you know what? People have been saying they can't wait to hear you because you're level-headed, you're measured, etc. Talk to me, man. Yeah, exactly. Congratulations as well, because I know you've just got engaged. So congratulations, Paul.
Yeah, I appreciate that, mate. Thanks very much. No yeah, mad day yesterday. I'll be honest with you, didn't watch the game live because I went out for dinner and got engaged. So that was why I missed it.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I'm glad I did miss it, but I watched it back twice. I watch every game twice, so I don't just react emotionally to it. I try and kind of sit back and look at things. And there's an issue with this, because if we're having this conversation the first game of the season, you're saying cracking performance, they played great football, they've dominated the game, they've created a ton of chances, they're unlucky not to win the game. The issue is now, as you already said, Joe, we're halfway through the season and we're still waiting on that spark moment, just everything just click and work. And there's moments of this where I like it. I mean, I'd be very honest, from watching the game, I thought it's probably the first game this season where we actually looked comfortable in the Premier League. There wasn't as much panic, there wasn't as much frantic football going on. It was a lot more organized and calm at times, and that is until we have to turn and face our own goal. And then and this is my issue, look, are the players good enough at the back? Probably not, but there's this conversation, and I have this with my brother all the time, and I say it as a coach as well. There's two things you're supposed to do. You either get the players that you need to play the system that you want, and if they're not available, then you play a system that suits the players that you have. And right now we're in a position where going forward, I think we're great. I really do. I enjoy watching us attack. I think we've got some lovely players going forward. I think Rudder coming in adds another element to that's going to be exciting. Bamford coming back and scoring, that's exciting. You know, that's great to see as well. But we can't defend as a unit. It's not just the back four. I mean, look at the first goal, the counter-attack, and it's another counter-attack. And we've been guilty of conceding on the counter-attack since pre-season. We saw it against Aston Villa in pre-season. We saw it against Brisbane. Roar scored a counter-attack goal against us in pre-season as well. It's been evident throughout the whole season. There's three types of goals Leeds concede. Someone running to the end line and pulling it back for a tap-in has been happening multiple times. The switch ball to the back post or counter-attack. They're the three that Leeds are conceding, and we're not changing. It's not getting any better from a defensive perspective. We were 2 days away from a new coach being appointed to replace Mark Jackson over a week ago. Still hasn't been done. For me, there's a lack of a defensive coach in there. Jesse is clearly not a defensive coach. Somebody needs to come in there and teach them how to defend as a unit. And again, I said it last time we spoke, Leeds can do one of two things. They can go expansive and attack, but they're going to concede 2 goals every single game. Or they can play a low block and dig in, and it's going to be dirty and ugly like it was against Newcastle, but you'll get a point from it. So, but we're unable to mesh both of those together to grind out results. So I would say, look, does it take time? Yeah, it does, but it's the Premier League, and unfortunately, you don't have time. I like Jesse Marsh as a bloke. I think he's a good guy. I think if the club is doing well, he's a fantastic guy to have the front of your club because he's very articulate. He's positive with the press. He's not one of these negative guys. But he's paid to win games of football right now. And I've been positive about Jesse, and I've backed Jesse since the start of the season. And we are fortunately that if you look at it, Bielsa's win percentage at this stage last season was 23.3%. This year, Marsh's is 23.8%. It's slightly better. We're 1 point better off and a couple of places in the league better off. But it's splitting hairs. There's no massive progression there. And considering the amount of players that have come in, I think some of the signs we brought in have been really, really good. And I think if we're going to say, Jesse can't get the most out of players, he's got the most out of some players. Some players have come in and looked really good. Even the young players coming through. So he's definitely having an impact on some of the players. He's just not having an impact on all of them. And it seems to be, to me, that it's the more experienced, older heads that are in Leeds that seem to be breaking down the most. But there's a system problem. I agree with what you said. Liam Cooper being caught one-on-one is a system problem. That shouldn't happen. Liam Cooper should never be exposed one-on-one because I looked at it and thought he's dropping too fast. If he stops and tries to press the ball, maybe he stops the move. But the problem with him is by that stage, Kamara's built up a head of steam and is running straight at him. If Cooper steps in, he just nicks the ball around him and Cooper's out of the game, probably gets a red card. So I understand why he drops. Pascal lets him inside too easy. And this thing again, and I agree what's just been said, all of a sudden the Leeds fan base has gone really tribal and split down the middle and everything is a polar, 100% the opposite direction. It's this player's great or this player's shit. There's nothing in the middle of, no, he's not a shit player. He's a decent player who had a bad game. And players go through runs of form and have bad games. Everyone was singing Brendan Aronson's praises before the World Cup. All of a sudden people have changed their their own history by saying, oh, well, he wasn't great before the World Cup and now he's been garbage since the World Cup finished. He's going through a bad run of form. He's a bit rusty. He didn't play in the World Cup. He sat on the bench for most of it. Stroke, has having a couple of bad games, but then he was asked to play centre-half last week against Cardiff. He hasn't played centre-half all season, so that's going to take him a couple of games to get used to it as well. The problem, again, is we just don't have time with this. We really don't have time. And if Leeds don't sort out the defence, either we learn to defend it as a unit or you're going to have to buy a whole new defence. I don't understand why Max Fober doesn't start yesterday. I'm getting to the point where, from a manager's perspective, and I thought Jesse hit rock bottom against Cardiff. I thought he was annoyed enough after the game to actually go, do you know what? I'm going to make changes. And then he didn't. I mean, Fober, for me, should be starting. It's either in place of Koch, Cooper, or Stroke, but the three of them can't keep playing. Somebody has to always change the system and go to a back three, which we can play wing-backs in then. And then I think you get the best out of Christensen and Firpo if you use them as wing-backs. But playing with back two, and this, last thing, because I'm rambling a bit. The last thing is on the full-backs. Jesse Marsh describes Leeds full-backs as wing-backs, but we're playing with a four-man defence, which means unless you've got two or one of your holding midfielders sitting in front of your back two and staying there, you are overexposed every single time you lose the ball. You can't play wing-backs in a four-man defence. You just can't. It's supposed to be a full-back. One can go, one stays, or your defenders stay. And if you look at the first goal, Mark Rock is the one jumping onto the corner, misses it, and then Tyler Adams is the player diving in the box trying to stop the counter-attack. There's your two holding midfielders gone in the penalty area of your opposition. Then you're hung out to dry. So, second goal is it's a cracker of a strike. Melly does whatever he can. It's hit him at an unbelievable pace, and then it's just a tap in. But I did think we were very good yesterday, but we lost. At this stage, we need to start getting wins, or else we're in serious trouble.
Thank you very much. Great assessment, mate. Luke, follow that, pal.
Fucking good luck with that. Cheers, Joe. No, I mean, I have to completely agree with Joe. I don't think there's anything in there that is incorrect or wrong. You know which sort of corner I've been the majority of the time, and I've been a big believer that changing managers isn't always going to be for the best, and that merry-go-round can often upset the apple cart more than it can obviously do good and have an adverse effect on a squad and a team. So for me, I think my biggest worry is where I'm at is that squad and that team of players are still playing and fighting for Jesse Marsh. No matter what you say, they are still putting 110% in, week out. My biggest concern is if that's rocked, it does have a massive adverse effect on that squad. However, I know we're not going to mention the person before, but I would imagine the majority of the squad that's currently there now probably felt that with him. So it's not impossible, is what I would say. I was at the game last night. Got a bit touchy in the away end. There was probably 40%, maybe up to 50% of the away end chanting Jesse out. I would probably say around about that, maybe at one stage. And then when he came over at the end, again, probably about 40-50% giving him the finger and whatnot. So, it wasn't a cracking atmosphere, but ultimately, and pretty exactly what Joe started with, actually. That performance at the start of the season, we're not that bothered. We've outplayed them. They've been time wasting. We've put a good shift in at Villa Park and made them play our game pretty much. And unlucky not to come away with a win on another day. I think with the confidence, we'd have come away maybe 3 or 4 goals to 1 or 2 there, quite comfortably as well. I don't think he's helped by the squad currently. I think there are. I know we look all right and we're playing well, but at this level, you've got to be clinical, and we're not clinical. I haven't seen our XG. I think it probably was around about 3 for yesterday, something along those lines, and scoring 1 away from home. And conceding 2 relatively soft goals, 1 within 2 minutes. It's not good enough. Do I think he can turn it round, or do I think he's turned it around? I think the performances show that we are still playing good football, which makes it difficult for me to make a decision. We're playing good football, but when it's a results-based business, we can't play good football and lose every week. And he said as much. He said something contradictory in his statement after the game. I'd rather play nice football and lose, or something along those lines. Don't quote me on those words, but that sort of stood out a little bit for me, and I'm like, hang on a minute, that's great if you're pushing for Europe and you're comfortably top half of the table, but not when you're in the position we are. You don't come out and say, I'd rather play nice football and lose a football match. We all know how good that point was away at Newcastle, and it was horrible. It was shit to watch. I was there for that. It was awful. We played it to a game plan and come away with a point, but I could not watch that every week. It was like watching Burnley. So yeah, I in some respects I agree. I want to see good football, but I also want to see some results from somewhere. And whilst I didn't expect us to get anything from Villa before the game last night, because Emery's come in and started doing a relatively good job there. I think they've had 3 wins out of 5 prior to last night. That game was there for the taking, and they're the sort of games that when you're winning, you need to be, converting into points. Otherwise, we are going to be in a real struggle. So yeah, that's where I am at the minute.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah,
not knowing which way to go. Come on, Max, liven us up, Mr. Positive.
Well, I think it's a very mixed bag, to be honest, because
it is.
It's a two-sided coin, and I kind of agree with a lot of stuff from both sides. Joe was saying that a lot of Leeds fans have been polarised by this, and they have. Loads of people are saying Jesse out, Jesse out. Other people are saying no, Jesse definitely in. I think it's in the middle ground for me. It's like if he does go, now you made the point, Joe, of people saying, well, if you sack him, who are we going to bring in? Obviously, that's not our job to know, but I do think a lot of the top managers have jobs at the moment. So if we were to sack him, we'd kind of be in that position where we bring somebody else in. Say we brought in Corbran and he did terrible. Everybody be saying it's the board's fault and we sacked Jesse when we shouldn't have. And so it's hindsight's 2020, isn't it? You're always going to say that in hindsight. But I do think, as much as I say this every week, there are positives to take from the games. And it pains me because I know that I'm repeating myself, because we attacked well. We created so many chances. Some of those attacking moves, I'm thinking, this is actually exciting and good to watch. And then I look at the scoreline, I'm like, oh, they scored a minute and a half in. Because it felt like for the whole game we were playing well. But you look at the scoreline and you just think, a minute and a half, they scored a goal, and it was a stupid counter-attack goal, which we've seen before. And I think Jesse's system would work if he bloody brought in a defensive coach. There are solutions to his defensive issues, but he's almost like he refuses to address them. It's like when we have a fullback go high, we leave the other one there, we leave the other one back, but the fullback that has gone, his position is just left. Nobody attempts to half fill, like a lot of systems work where the 3 that are back, if a fullback goes, the 3 that are back will slide across and just play like a back 3. And especially when you've got somebody like Strauch, who's a natural centre back, if you were to slide them across as a back 3 when we went on the attack, say Rasmus has gone or Ayling's gone, slide them across, you've got a solid base. A lot of teams play with a back 3 that will stay back. But it's like he just refuses to try anything different. We haven't tried to do anything different with the defense, and it's so frustrating. It's like he's got no clue how to defend. Other teams will have holding midfielders drop back and make up part of that back line as well. But I don't think he wants to do that, because I think he wants those to be part of the attack. So for me, the solution is to have a back 3 or an interchangeable back 3 sort of thing whenever we have fullbacks go up. But if I can see that and he can't, then there's an issue there, and he needs to bring in a defensive coach to be alongside him, because I can't keep backing him if the same goals are going to be conceded every week. So that's why I'm saying that I'm sitting on the fence, because I believe that the attacking football I've seen is so promising, and I think he's a really good coach for young attackers. I think that's the best thing he is a good coach for young attackers. We've seen Somerville come on leaps and bounds. We've seen Nonto come on leaps and bounds. Obviously he was good ever since he came in, but maybe Jesse can't take credit for that. But you know what I mean? We've seen a lot of our attackers get better, even Rodrigo, who's older. I think he's not a defensive coach, and he needs somebody to give him a kick up the backside and show him how to organise a defence, because I can't keep backing him if we're going to keep conceding the same goals.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I've got a lot of rebuttals to a lot of that, but we'll wait.
Okay,
Rocco, thanks, thanks for waiting patiently, mate. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'd start with saying that I thought it was a bit unfair, the fans' reception after the game last night, because we were unfortunate, you know, and you know, given, you know, slagging off the players for that, you know, they gave their all, as we've said. So I didn't particularly like that. But what I would say about last night is, although we did dominate, we were 1-0 down after 3 minutes, and the important thing here is that changes the dynamic. Like, you know, there's nothing to say we would have dominated that game if Villa hadn't have taken an early lead. You know, it changes everything. So, you know, there is that. I think likely we probably would have dominated. I think Villa were really poor. I think they were injury ravaged, weren't they? I think as well. So, you know, another disappointment on not getting a result. But for me, he has to go regardless. Like, I think it's just fundamentally his tactics aren't going to work. And I've seen this right from the start. About 20 minutes into his first home game against Villa, my dad said, this is like League One football. And like, we were horrified watching what they were trying to do. And like this season as well, it's not got better. You know, we play like under nines, this whole philosophy of the blanket press. It's just too easy to play around. Like, it doesn't work at this level, or it doesn't work with our level of players at this level. And I just can't see it working. And, you know, another thing I always go back to is the fact that, you know, this is Rangnick's, you know, tactics that failed so horrifically at Man U. So, you know, why we're expecting them to work at Leeds, I don't really know. So, yeah, that's the main thing for me. The other thing as well is I think that, you know, Jesse's shown that he's not a very good judge of player. Like you touch upon with Christensen, you know, he's coached him for 2 years, and to think that he can come in and do it in the Premier League when I feel like I could see straight away that he just doesn't look, you know, he's awkward. He doesn't look like a naturally gifted footballer in any stretch. And, you know, certainly not a patch on Ayling, who I thought played well again last night. So the final thing as well for me about Jesse, it sounds stupid, but it's this LinkedIn thing, you know, and it just sums him up. Like, he's oblivious, you know, to do that on the eve of a game where, you know, we're struggling, we've won 2-17, and he's coming out, you know, he's joined LinkedIn and he wants to discuss with people and he wants to do this. You know, concentrate on Leeds. You shouldn't have time for LinkedIn. You shouldn't be thinking about LinkedIn. You should be 100% committed to Leeds. And even if you're not, you shouldn't be admitting that you're not. So, you know, I just think he's not that bright. You know, he's full of hot air, and it's not going to work. And the board have to take that decision as soon as possible for me.
Rocco, do you not think it's the perfect time for him to be on LinkedIn?
There is that, yeah. Maybe
I
it's
don't think though, if like football players and managers, a lot of the time, like if he said that he was enjoying a certain series, like a TV show, would you be saying? Because he does have his own spare time as well. To be fair, he's not like constantly at work.
No, but
the guy before us did that. He used to sit in Costa working every morning.
Yeah. Do you know what it is, though? I think, look, because it's going so bad, these little things are sticks to beat him with. You know, I do it myself, I'm aware, but I'm the same as Rock. I was like,
he shouldn't have
what is
tweeted it.
this? Yeah,
he could have done it and just left it on LinkedIn, and then somebody might have found it, and then it wouldn't have been such a big thing. But the fact he tweeted it and was like, "Oh, excited to speak to you all about success," and everyone's like, "Well, when you've had some, then you can maybe do that."
Things about Jesse, you know, that drive me nuts with this, and it's the parts that I like about him that are also the ones that end up being the stick that we beat him with, because I like the fact that he's open and transparent. I like the fact that we get loads of details from his press conference. I like the fact that we know what's going on behind the scenes. And, you know, Bielsa could talk an awful lot, but he wouldn't give you the inside track on what was going on. And you'd manage like Steven Gerrard, who just would say yes and no answers to the press, and you never got anything out of them. And then at the same time, you're like, Jesse, shut up. Just stop talking about LinkedIn and stop talking about this and stop talking about that. Just be more. And the problem I have is I'd like to say he's not self-aware, but I think he's very aware of the press. And I think he's hyper aware of being seen in the media and in the press and being seen as a good coach. And I think half of the stuff with his, you know, defensive stuff not being willing to change, I think he 100% believes in his system and his style. I think he is 100% convinced this will work I have to tweak it a little bit along the way, maybe change the odd player or two. But I believe if I get a good run at this, it will work. And it worked in Austria because he had the best players in the league. It worked in America because they had the best players at that time in the league. You know, and it didn't work as well in Germany. Didn't last long enough, but he had 6 months and they were like, we can't miss out on Champions League, so you're going to have to leave. And then he came to us and you're like, we're 12 months in now. We're just about 12 months in. You're like, it's not really working in the Premier League. It didn't work for Hasenhüttl. Southampton used to go on these runs of games where they'd win and people would think saying, oh, they're great, they're okay. And then if you look at them at the end of last season, they lost 9 of the last 15 games and they were
get safe
right.
and then be like, right, we'll lose every game now.
Just throw the towel. And then this year they started the season really well and everyone's like, oh, Hasenhüttl's fixed all the problems. Then they lose 5 or 6 on the bounce and you're going, and they're heavy defeats as well. We were very similar to them. We're winning games that we shouldn't be winning, then we're losing strings of games that we should be getting points out of. And it's exactly the same. And then, you know, Rocco, you brought up Rangnick as well. It's the same at Manchester United. They win a couple of games and it would look great. And then they get thumped by somebody they shouldn't be losing to. And you're like, the Red Bull style of football doesn't work in the top leagues in the world. It's not working in Germany for Red Bull either. They've not got what they wanted out there. So that's the problem for me, is this style doesn't work here.
I think you've hit on a good point there, though, that he had all the best players in the league. We were talking about this with the chat on my stream last night, how somebody like Pep Guardiola, I wonder how well they would do if they had a shite defense, if they went to a lower in the table team and tried to apply the same philosophy. Obviously, he's a great manager, but I do sometimes think that some managers are meant to coach elite players. Now, Jesse Marsch is not going to get a job like that, but I wonder if he would actually have more success if he had bloody Ruben Dias and players like that at the back who are so much less prone to those mistakes and just better in general. Because I feel like if Pep tried to play that system with Leeds, then we would be conceding the same goals because we'd be so open. What
I'll say though is, if Pep wants to have a go, he's welcome to come and
yeah, this is. Come on, I think that's clutching personally. Come on, Pep Guardiola would walk into here. Yeah, we might not win the league, but I'm not having that. We won't be a decent side. I also disagree with and again, this is just me from the eye test. I disagree with that we play well. I don't think we do. I think it's pure vibes, me. I think I think a lot of it's based on game state. You know, like someone mentioned about we were already 1-0 down. I think it might have been Rocco. So then if we don't go 1-0 down, are we dominating as much we do? Like Jesse's talking in his pre-match saying, I just don't know why we always have to come back from games. I think at that point it works due to game state, because I think a lot of the opposition will go, right, let's drop back a little bit. Let's do this, stop that. And that enables us to actually, you know, spring on them and cause that frantic nature. I think a lot of the chances, I know it sounds mad, right? And I know I am very, very critical, but it's almost like luck. Like, this is how I feel if it bounces into the right play, because I don't see no sort of cohesion or clarity that he asked for. And I'll come back to it. How can you have clarity in chaos? You know, that's my main thing. Them things don't go hand in hand. And I think he's not helping himself. I mean, some of you must have seen this. He said that the chip to the back post goal was only something that happens in England. Come on, mate. What, you saying I can't watch any game across and don't see that goal happening? If you actually,
with any coach with a brain, will see that that's the thing. And Villa were trying to just knock the ball over the top of us.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying.
We pushed anyone up.
But that's how you beat a press. That's always been the way you beat a press. If somebody presses you, you bypass the press. That's how you beat a press. And
yeah, but the issue is that we then don't. We almost don't expect it. You know, like insanity, apparently, according to Einstein's repeating the same thing and expecting different results. And we know that that's the way to beat a press, is to go over it or through it with a long pass. But we then stand in the same positions every time and allow the same balls to go over the top. Whereas you'd think that the fullback would go, he's shaping up to hit it over the top here, and everyone just backs off 5 yards. If it doesn't go, then come up again. But
yeah, here's a thought. Do you think they're actually training Team A, Team B, and they're playing in the exact same style, so they actually don't have a fucking clue what to do with the over the top ball?
Yeah, they need a team to play low block against them, don't they? And one team presses and the other team tries to hit the ball over the top of them.
But if you
again, it's mind blowing that we can say
the start of the season we struggled the most
fine.
against teams that played low blocks. Like we like Everton played a low block against us, and we just couldn't figure out how to get in behind them at all and get any kind of chances. And then the Crystal Palace game was the one where we had a really, really good first half, and then a second half, Vieira just said bypass the low block, bypass their press, just go long. And it took Leeds 25 minutes and 2 goals before they went, oh, okay, we should probably drop 10 yards.
Do you know what?
Sorry, Joe. I think
Go on,
if
mate.
you play high press, it's all very well and good. If you've got defenders who aren't running in treacle, we have got absolutely no pace at the back. So as soon as that ball goes over the top, you're like, well, it's either Melier who's going to come out and kick someone in the head like he did last night, or the strikers getting to the ball. It's absolute. It's just chaos. Constantly.
Can I just? That's another thing as well, right? I almost felt Jesse in his presser called out Melier. It was a throw in the gauntlet down when he's talking about the quarterback, the last line of defence, the sweeper keeper in effect. And Melier, please don't do that again, because I don't think you've got it in your locker for me personally. He kept coming out a few times and I was like, whoa. So I don't know if like even Jesse in the presser's like throwing down, this is what I'm asking from him and all that sort of stuff. And you've just got to play to your strengths. And I'll say this as well, like, without Nonto in that side yesterday, we hardly create anything. I don't think. It's pure vibes, bro. It's pure vibes.
That's because of what you said as well, because the shackles come off when we go behind. It's only been a couple of times where I've properly seen us do Jesse Marsh football to score a goal. And I think 2 of the best examples were against West Ham, where the throw-in came in, Nonto runs right through the middle, passes it to Harrison, slips in Rodrigo, and he scores. And you think, that's exactly what Jesse wants. He must have been buzzing with that. But against Villa, as soon as we went behind, we played so well because Nonto was down the wing and he was taking on Ashley Young and he was getting the ball into the box. And that is not really what this system is about. It's about trying to get central as fast as possible. But Nonto was able to use his pace and his dribbling to exploit that wing. And it works so well for us. So maybe he's hoping for a bit of a change of system, Marsh, if we sign somebody like Unahi to play a 4-3-3, which we mentioned the other week. I said that it means that you don't have to push the fullbacks as high because the wingers create their own width. And maybe it just makes us a bit more solid at the back. But at current, we probably don't really have a box-to-box number 8 to play in that role. If we've got 2 sitting and 1 in front, maybe we don't really have that box-to-box midfielder. But if they get him in and they play that way, then at least he's trying something. But at the moment, you cannot just keep putting those players out there like a lamb to the slaughter and having them concede the same mistakes and only play well when we go behind. It's Groundhog Day. And I've not been like a staunch defender of Jesse, but I've tried to sort of keep a level head throughout this, but like throughout the season and every time we've been on the final word and stuff. But I'm slowly going down that hill because the longer every game, I believe in him and the system less. And so before long, I might be on the Jesse out bandwagon, but I just hope that he does something about it because I've seen flashes of it being able to work, but I'm losing less and less, faith in it.
Joe, just on the if it wasn't for Nonto on the team yesterday, and maybe it is a bit vibesy football, but why does that have to be a bad thing? If it's enjoyable to watch and we're getting results, that's the thing. The problem is we're not getting results, and that's the issue. I have no issue with vibes football as long as we're winning the game. It becomes a problem when you're not. But they're not. Like I said this last time I was on this, I go full Roy Keane on these kind of things. Nonto, if it wasn't for Nonto, we'd be in trouble. That's his job. That's why they bought him. They bought him because he signed as a player. Is he creating chances? Yeah. Was he brought in to create chances? Yeah, he was. Because if he's not creating chances, then we're having the conversation like we have about Christensen at the back. Going, well,
was he brought in to create chances because he wasn't Premier League ready, was he?
Yeah. I saw a couple of ones this morning after Leo yelled across the ball for Rotherham saying, "Oh, so Leo Yeld is not Premier League ready." You're like, no, he's not.
I've got a quick question, Joe. I've got a question. Based on, I know you said you don't think the performance was that good. It wasn't a good performance on the whole. I disagree. I think we played well last night. I think we created enough to win that game. What sort of conversation? And it's completely hypothetical because we lost the game 2-1. But what conversation would we be having today? Had we won that game, which we probably should have done?
Yeah, no.
Would that have changed your mind? Do you know? I mean, we haven't won, and it's a results-based business.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we're still on the same amount of points and everything. But how much different would today's conversation have been had we have got the rightful result from that game?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, and I'm grateful that you ask it. I did say, like, I do think in parts yesterday we did play well, right? We did play well, but what I'm saying is, I don't think that's due to, you know, like the previous, you know, scripted movements. I don't think it's anything. I don't think it's anything Jesse's work. The only thing that I will give props. Yeah, it's individual moments from exceptional players. The only thing I'll give Jesse credit for, if we score from, sorry, that's bad. The only thing I know that Jesse has had a full-on grip on is the set pieces, because that's something they work out, and you can see it with all this. That's something they've spent ages on. They've got certain bloody signals, and I'm like, right, okay, we nearly scored from one of them where they, you know, put it through. I think it might have been Rodrigo. It was a good save in the end. But I think a lot of it, like I said, it's just vibes. Like, even that goal that Max spoke about at West Ham, it comes from a throw-in. It's like, it's so frantic. It's like throwing. Rodrigo heads it on, Nonto runs in, 1-2, bang, goal. Like, amazing, great when it's working. But in the Premier League, I don't think you get that enough. You just don't get that enough, because the teams that you're going up against are too good. They're too good. So when you're popping it around,
I think we said this last week as well.
Yeah.
We had the same issue, and we said we need another way of scoring, because although that was brilliant, you can see them trying to do it sometimes, and that's when they give away the ball. When Brendan Aronson gave that ball, tried to give it back to Rocker, but misplaced the pass, or Rocker moved and it went straight to Skamaka and he scored for West Ham. That was a moment where Aronson is so frantic to get there, get the pass off, spin, run, and just do everything at 100 miles an hour that he panicked and misplaced the pass, or Rocker panicked trying to make sure he was in the right place. And a lot of the time we give the ball away in those attacking positions because we're trying to do everything first touch or too fast. Marsh said when he came in he was going to take everything from 100 down to 70. But I feel like a lot of his attacking play, like the pressing, maybe that's the case. And maybe there's more structure to the press in his idea of things. But when we've actually got the ball, somebody's just said Anxiety FC.
Yeah, I've just saved it. I'm stealing that. I'm stealing it, Anxiety FC.
So, but when we've got the ball in those attacking positions, we panic so much that we just like, right, we've got to get it quick. But by the time that's happened, we've lost the ball and they're counter-attacking again. So, yeah, I think sometimes we need to go from 100 down to 70, down to about 50.
I just want to get this super chat in just quickly, Joe. Thank you very much, Freddie. He said bad results speak louder than good performances, which is fair enough. Jesse is out of his depth and in denial. He has to go. Carlos Corberan is the perfect option. What were you going to say, Joe? Thank you, mate, for your super chat.
Just one of your comments that's there in chat, just around why are we in a good mood because Leeds won. This thing about what we have to be all miserable because we didn't get a result yesterday, that has to dictate our moods for the next 7 days, does it, or 5 days, or whatever it is to a game. I had another guy came after me on Twitter who apparently I met once at a thing in Dublin. Weirdo, absolute oddball, came after me yesterday. And basically because I was trying to be relatively positive about one aspect. I was still complaining that we lost the game and still saying Jesse's messed up, but I was trying to be positive in some parts of it. And this guy's like, I'm the problem. I'm the reason. I'm my people like me because we're trying to be positive. And that comment about us being in a good mood. Look, if I took Leeds to heart 100% of the time, all the time, I'd be hanging off a roof somewhere by a rope. You know, you have to try and be able to find some pleasure in supporting Leeds, and getting a chance to talk about it with other Leeds fans. I like doing that. It cheers me up. I'm pleased to do it. So. And there's things that do happen in the game that are good, and the things that happen in the game that are bad, and the things that are funny and not funny. And you have to take them all on an individual basis. You can't just go, well, we lost. I'm now going to be intolerable, whingy, and shouty for the next 7 days because my team lost. Come on.
I was the sole reason, according to a few people on YouTube, that Bielsa got sacked. So
I'm glad we sorted that one out. We had the blame.
And I'm getting chinned every week in the Peacock from somebody.
This bloke just started off a tweet by saying, I met you in Dublin when Gary Monk was here. I'm like, I have no idea who you are. Go away.
Yeah. I had to, well, just the block button's a nice thing, man. The block button's a nice thing.
Please don't come near my house.
Rocco, have you
Tell
got
you what,
any?
lads, though, being positive, you don't really get much much abuse.
Get battered for
get
being
more.
positive, mate. Battered.
Rocco, what were you? Have you got anything more to add, mate? I know you're sitting there just listening,
Yeah.
taking it in.
No, I mean, one thing I would say as well, not even in support of Jesse really, but I do think our expectations are high as well. I mean, the Premier League's hard. We've been away for 16 years. We've come back. This is the third season. I think we're set up to struggle. Like we should expect to struggle. Like we shouldn't expect really to be mid-table. We want to be mid-table, and we need to push to get there. And I don't think Jesse's going to take us there. But what I'm saying is, I do think as well that there needs to be some sympathy there. You look at Villa. They've had a year's head start on us. They're a massive club like us. They've had more money to spend. They're onto their third manager. They can get someone like Emery. But they're struggling. They've stretched ahead of us now. But they're not out of the woods either. So the Premier League's hard. I don't know either. How many top quality players have we got? We've got Adams, Melier for me, and Yonto. And then after that,
fit, I think.
Sinistera, when he's fit, certainly. And there's a lot of good players that that are looking good or playing good. But there is a lack of quality there. So, maybe we're being too harsh. It doesn't change my mind for the reasons I said of why I don't think it's going to work. But I do have, some sympathy with him. And I do think expectations are high. Like, playing West Ham the other week, and people are disappointed we've not put them to the sword. West Ham have got a lot of quality players in there. I was happy with that performance. So, yeah, one thing I would say in support of Jesse.
Can I just ask you all, are we in a relegation battle?
Yeah.
I spoke. We did our post-match podcast this morning, and I don't know if anyone's listened to it. We only get like 5 listeners or something, so probably not. But we discussed at great length that actually there's almost 3 leagues within the Premier League, and there's people that are pushing for Europe. You've got your established Premier League teams plus a couple of anomalies a season who, your Brentford or Fulham this season or whatever, who just sort of punch above their weight. And I think everybody else, and there's probably 5, 6, sometimes 7 teams every season, and we're included in that, whether we like to hear it or not, because of where we are as a club. The relegation battle pretty much almost starts before the start of the season for me. And it's horrible to hear, and it's not nice, especially given how well we play and how big a club we think we are. But I think we're in that bottom third and that bottom bracket currently as a club. So, yeah, absolutely in a relegation battle for me. Would I like to be? Absolutely not. We all want what's best for Leeds United, but the realism is we're not at that level. I mean, you've got teams down there who've spent an absolute fortune, like Everton and Wolves and things like that as well. That arguably I would have probably put in the middle bracket before this season. So there are going to be a couple of floating anomalies and things that probably league positions that don't make all that much sense. However, if we're realistic and honest about it, we are probably in that bottom third or even quarter of the Premier League. Until we start investing and trying to move forward. I seen somebody comment earlier that finishing 9th in that first season back was the worst thing that could happen because the board thought we'd arrived. They thought they didn't have to invest all this money because, well, we could take a championship team plus 1 or 2 to 9th position. Next season we'll be in 6th. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, I completely think we are now, and I think we will be until we continue to invest. Not only sensibly, but dramatically.
I think the squad is exactly where it should be in the table. I think 14th place. Because if you look back at the start of the season, and I predicted this as well, loads of people have, pick a spot where Leeds are going to finish by the end of the season. And I said between 12th and 15th or 14th. Most people actually said between 12th and 15th was where they thought Leeds would finish.
Yeah.
Not in the relegation spots, slightly above them, but, still going to be a tricky enough season. And we're 14th. We're bang on where we probably should be. The difference between the squad we have in a bottom 3 relegation fight and maybe hitting the top 10 spot or just hitting 10th is the manager. That's your difference. That squad is in that middle bracket. And if you get a really good manager who can coach them well, then maybe they can nick a couple of points here and there that they shouldn't, and they move up a couple of places into a slightly more comfortable place. But I'm the exact same. I as positive as I am about Leeds, I count down from 40 every season. That's what I do. I start off with we need 40 points to survive. our starting point is 40. So when we win our first game, it's cool. There's 37 points left. So that's how I do it. So.
Yeah, and I don't dispute any of what's been said, but I guess the point I make it is because our manager said that we're not in a relegation fight.
He's not going to come out and say that we are, is he? What does that mean? What does that look like to the players?
I think the Premier League's weird, isn't it? Like Luke said, it's like the bottom third. It's there or thereabouts. Everybody's are going to be around the similar stage, but I think you start to look at relegation battle after Christmas. As soon as Christmas happens and you see where everybody is at sort of the halfway point of the season, I think that's when you can assess things. And most of the time, though, at that point, it's really tight down there. And I don't think it properly opens up into what you would call like a full-blown relegation battle until some of those better teams, like in previous seasons, like maybe Brighton or Southampton have started to drift away from the rest of that bottom pack towards the end of the season. Do you know what I mean? Like at the moment, it's so tight on points between all of the bottom like 7 or 8 that I think even within a few weeks, it's going to start to open up a little bit more, and a few teams are going to get 3 points, 6 points, and then the teams that aren't doing so well are going to drop away, and then you're going to have more of a condensed 4 or 5 at the bottom trying to, do you know what I mean, trying to scrap it out. So I can maybe understand why he said that he doesn't think we're in a relegation battle, and maybe that's also for morale and things as well, saying that basically, if you say you're in a relegation battle, you're sort of admitting that that's the level that you're at. And maybe he's got those things in his head, hasn't he, about being a motivational speaker and how to talk to people. And maybe he thinks that saying that would be bad for the players. But I can kind of get why he's doing that. But I do think after Christmas, you start to really see who's in the scrap down there. And we are going to be one of them.
I think
maybe it comes back to what... yeah, I was just going to say maybe it comes back to what Radrizzani said at the beginning of the season about how it's impossible to be in a relegation scrap. You know, maybe Jesse's been told, you know, you'll lose your job if you're in a relegation battle. So you know, maybe that's some reason why he said that. Because
so he's like, no, definitely not a relegation battle. No,
it's that meme, isn't it? It's that meme of the dude standing with the fire all around and going, it's fine. Grand.
Yeah.
It's fine. But this is where, again, he can't win in that scenario. I mean, if he says, no, we're not in a relegation fight, 6 of us come on here and have a debate about going, well, that's a stupid comment. Of course we're in a relegation fight. If he comes out and he says, yeah, we are in a relegation fight, then we're all on here going, well, that's his job to make sure we're not in a relegation fight. Why is he saying this? Do something about it then. You know, so you're kind of stuck in his place of going,
you're far too measured for me, Joe.
I like him.
What I'm saying about him is sometimes avoid the question. Just don't answer the question. Like sometimes the best answer is not to answer it and to go, because no matter what you say right now, I mean, the same thing about him saying, I take a performance over win. That's taken out of context. That comment is in, if we did this performance every single week, I'd be very happy outside of this result because I know we will get results playing like that. I'm confident that we will. But it's a soundbite and it's clipped that it's Jesse Marsh says that he'd take a win. He'd take a performance like that over a win any day. That's not what he said. He didn't say any day. He said take that performance over a win in the context of we'll win more games if we can play like that. That's how he wants us to play. But
yeah,
if that's the case, we're going to concede 2 goals every single game. We're going to have to win 3-2. And that's not okay. That has to stop.
And even I actually defended him on a Leeds group chat I'm on, saying that is massively out of context. Because what I likened it to, and I said it on my video, it's like Bamford always getting in the right positions under the previous manager. And he used to say he's in the right positions, eventually he'll score. And what Jesse's saying is, if we play like that week in, week out, we will win games. Yeah. But the issue that I have is, I have no confidence that we will play like that week in, week out. You know what I mean? I think that's
we need to start slipping away grounds a couple of quid to put 1-0 to their team on the board before kickoff, and then we might play all right.
I just settle for a couple of 1-0 wins, just 1-0. Yeah. You know, nothing, no drama. We keep saying it. I don't think Leeds fans' expectation is that high. I agree that the 9 points finish in the first season probably got us a little bit more excited than we should have been. But at the same time, I think a couple of seasons in the mid-table where there's no drama, no bullshit, no worry. I think we'd settle for that for a couple of years just to relax for a second, because you come out of the last 3 years in the Championship, which were mental, into the Premier League. You get a great first season. The next 2 years are mental. And you're like, just give us a year, 2 seasons where we can just consolidate calmly, No big drama, nothing special, nothing mad. But we're never going to get that as Leeds fans. It's never, ever been that way.
I don't think it helped as well that in that season we blew teams away. Like we beat Newcastle 5-2 and we beat West Brom 5-0, and it was like, bloody hell, this is a Premier League and we're absolutely smashing
not
people.
a fan in the stadium that entire season, and you can see that Bamford had the best season he ever had with no fans in the stadium, and there's because we. As much as we want,
he's on for the golden boot now, though. He started his tally.
Yeah, but at the same time, when he's not doing well, we're very quick to get on his back as well. So you can understand that when there's no one in the stadium, there's no one giving him, when you've got 20,000 people telling you your shit, he's because you missed a shot. He doesn't have that, so he's able to score goals. I think we can get on our own team's back probably too heavily too early on at times.
100%. Yeah. I was buzzing for Bamford. Just let me say that 100 career goals now. Delighted for him, man. I do, really, really like him. But he's got to stay fit, hasn't he? He's got to stay fit. I mean, I think it's been quite measured, hasn't it? I feel better. Honestly, I've been angry all day, and I've come on here, and you've made me feel better. This is why I love it. Do you know what I mean?
It's stressed now, Joe. I'm not taking all your anger.
Yeah, exactly. I've taken your shit. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That punch in the sofa.
Can we'll go back round, Chris? Can he turn it around? Can he turn it around?
There's always a chance, mate, and I'd love him to do it. I agree with Max. I think if he bites down and realizes that he's got some flaws, and to bring in the right people around him who can make changes because going forward, I agree. There's a lot of good stuff going forward. It does feel sometimes like we've gone from Rafinha to Willy Gnonto. Just give him the ball. Just give him the ball, and let's see what happens. But there is positive going forward, and if he can sort that defence out, I do think he can turn it around, but I don't think he's got long to do it. I think he's got 2-3 games, and if they don't go well, I do think Radrazani will be like, I think he'll pull the trigger. So if he's going to do it, he needs to do it now.
Definitely. Just before I move on to Joe, there's been a lot of people asking for the lads' channels on the video in the comments. What I've done, they're all in the description, okay? Each person's name with the channel next to it, or podcast in Rocco's case. So if you want to check them out, as I know some of you will want to do, all Leeds content creators, go check them all out. We're all in the same boat, so please do that. Yeah, we're in the same boat. I blame my mum for that. She talks with her hands. I take it from her. Joe, can he turn it around then, bud?
I really want him to, because there is bits that I like about the guy, and I want Leeds to have a bit of a stable period with one manager. But I don't think we will. I think the next 2 weeks are huge. I think the group of games that we're in up until we play Chelsea next, I think will dictate what our season ends up being. I think they're all in and around us. He gets a bye this week. I think he survives this week because he has Cardiff midweek. If he beats Cardiff, he gets to Brentford. It's 2 home games in a row. It's Cardiff and then Brentford. He has to get a result against Brentford for me. If he loses to Cardiff and Brentford, I think he's in big trouble. I think he's gone by Forest if we lose to Forest. But I think, and if we lose those 2 league games, Brentford and Forest, I think we're in big trouble.
Yeah. I think he's got to win. He's got to beat Cardiff and Brentford this week, otherwise it's curtains for me. I think anyway. Yeah, I agree. And that's not like, for me, it's already curtains. But I think Rads at that point will say, "Nah, time's up now, Jesse. I'm sorry, move on."
Joe, just as you've defended bits for us as well. Just to be clear, you get a lot of stick about wanting Jesse gone already, but I'm pretty sure you'd be very open to being proven wrong by Jesse if you turn this around.
100%. This is the thing. No, not at all. Like people say, "Oh, Joe's wanted Jesse gone for a long time," but listen. I was talking to Oscar the other day, who'd put, "What's the plan?" I said that back in October, and I'm not doing this for whataboutery or anything like that. I'm just saying, for me, he's never been the guy, but that's okay. That doesn't mean I hate him or anything like that. It's just from what I've seen, I just don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy the football. Even when we win, it's not great, apart from maybe Chelsea aside and a few others. But I just don't enjoy it. It's nothing about him. It's nothing about the previous manager. Because go back and watch the videos when he came in, new start, fresh start, American Revolution, all this. Do you think I wanted to go into the season with my team losing games? No. I just don't rate him. I genuinely don't rate him. I think he's a great talker. I think he's tactically inept. I just don't know what we'll do. And I think even if he was to survive, Season after season after season will be like this. It'll just be like Southampton, like you mentioned earlier. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And I think we have the potential to really grow. So you get a top manager in, we can do that. I genuinely believe that. But
you know what, mate? Do you know what? I think, and someone else said to me this the other day, he's the man before the man. That's what Jesse is.
Simon Jordan said something like that, wasn't it?
He's got to open his eyes to Rads and the 49ers and whoever else that you can throw all the money, and they're throwing money now at the squad. We can't whinge about them not spending money this window. It's happening. But unless you've got the right man coaching them in the right way, can throw all the money you want at the squad, it's not going to happen. So I think Jesse, and I like Jesse. There's a lot to like about Jesse. I backed him massively when he came, and I was all up for his, desk thumping motivational speaks. But when you're losing week in, week out, you're like, mate, I can't listen to this anymore because it's just the same drivel. So I think he's the man before the man.
I hope you're right. I just want to just quickly address something before I come to you, Luke. Someone said, tactically inept, you manage them then. Listen, no, but what I'm saying is it's like, this is a discourse between fans. This is what this is about. We're allowed to criticize. We're allowed to praise. It's a discourse between fans. That's all this is. I'm not professing to be the manager. Do I think Jesse would do a better job than me? Of course he would. Do you know what I mean? Of course he would.
You've got eyes and you can still see that.
Exactly.
It's like Jesse changes or changing the manager entirely. Exactly. And that's where it's up to someone's opinion.
Yeah, exactly. It's about opinions. Otherwise, what we're doing when we go to football games, just stand there like that. And then like when we win, just like that. And then when we lose, like, I can't say anything either way because someone will say, I need to go be a manager. It's madness. Go on, Luke. Will he change it around, can he? And how will he do it, bro? How will he do it?
I mean, first of all, I hope he does. Obviously, everybody wants. We're all in the same boat. We're all passionate. We all love Leeds United. We want to see the best for our club, and we want to see us getting results. Ultimately, obviously, the first sight of Jesse Marsh was him siding down Beckham, and we all loved him. We thought he was, we thought he was going to be great, and he hates scum, and he does the fist pump and everything else. I think, can he change it around? I absolutely do think he can. I've seen enough in parts, whether that be 80 minutes in a game or even 10 minutes in a game where we're being absolutely outplayed. I think I've seen enough to think that we've got enough, but I think we need some real major changes. And I agree with Chris. I don't think he's got long enough to do it. So I don't think he will be managers for much longer. And I love the point he made about it, the man before the man. Very similar to Rangnick and who was the other one? Anyway, very similar to, look, you can bring somebody in, but if they are not right to play, a certain style of football in this country against other clubs from this country, it just simply will not work. I think if he was to, I think he's been very unfortunate in losing coaches. I don't think that's helped his cause. We've lost Jacko to Milton Keynes, and he was really important to, especially the youth lads that have come through as well, who spent a lot of time with him. Simon Johnson mentioned this morning on Ought Know Better that Jacko probably led a lot of the training. He doesn't know how involved Marsh is with the training. He couldn't possibly comment, but he said knowing him, and he thinks that he would have probably been almost taking the training under order. So I think the defensive coach, great idea, but has he got enough time to bring all these things in and make it work? I think it could, absolutely. Do I think it will? No.
No, that's fair, and that's a fair assessment. You know what I mean? To say like I want it to, but I don't think it will, kind of thing. So that's great, Luke. Thanks for that. Max, thoughts?
Yeah, I echo the sentiment of what the other lads have said, and that nobody wants somebody to be bad. We all want the managers to succeed because we all love our football club, and you always want your manager to succeed no matter what. But I think the thing is, the board are still buying him players like Verba that are Jesse Marsh players. I don't think they buy him a player in January and then sack him a couple of weeks after. Do you know what I mean? Like, personally, if we keep doing the same things and conceding the same goals and having to score 3 to win a game, and we keep losing, then it is time for him to go. But I don't think it'll happen. I just don't think the board sack him. I think they've backed him so much with transfers, and especially with the American owners wanting to take over as well. I'm not sure how much they are thinking that they don't want to get rid of him. But even as much as any of us could say that in a few games' time, if the same things keep happening, the same patterns and the same concessions of goals keep happening, then we probably all say, okay, yeah, it's time for a change. I just don't think the board are going to do it because they're still backing him by buying players for his system. So, yeah, that's my sort of two penneth. I probably think in a few weeks might want him to go, but I don't think it'll happen.
Cool. Well, I hope if we're at that stage where you're wanting him to go, they best make it happen, mate. Otherwise, that's it. We're tits up. Rocco, I mean, you've already said right at the start, haven't you? But can he? Do you think he may turn it around? I guess.
I was going to say stranger things have happened, and then I was racking my brains trying to think. Well, who has turned it around after struggling for this long without really any signs of being up to the job, really, but. Then again, we're 14th. Does he have to turn it around? Does he, is it all right for him to just keep treading water, getting the odd result here and there? I mean, it could click and we could start getting results. We've played Anfield was brilliant. Like that was a magnificent performance for me. So, if the players can give that sort of response again and then just get on a bit of a roll, the international break probably did come at a bad time for us and he might bemoan that. I don't think he will, but yeah, I hope to God that I'm wrong. Someone said in the comments about, how it's good for business having an American manager and tapping into that American market, and it absolutely is. I would love Jesse Marsch to do really, really well, and it would be a great revenue stream for Leeds. And yeah, it's modern football. It's the way it is. It's a global sport, and that's a potential advantage for Leeds. I just can't see it, mate. I thought we'd be 16th at the end of the season with Marsch, and it's sort of going the way I've expected. So I think it's going to keep going that way.
I think so too. And with that, folks, we'll have to bring it to a close because my little boy's woke up and his sister's sorting him out for a second, and he wants his dad. So I best shoot. But listen, we have Sam Rutter, that's done as well. Listen, make sure you check everyone's channels out. Fantastic video tonight, fantastic contributions by all. Everyone's channel is in the description. I want to thank you all for showing myself support and make sure you go and show these support as well. I'll be back tomorrow with a video on Rutter and obviously talking about Anahi because it looks like Leeds are actually serious about getting him done as well. Everyone's speaking the right things about him, the people who are actually ITK. So that's good to hear. Make sure you check everyone out and we'll see you again after Cardiff. Hopefully, some of them will be able to make it, some of them won't, but we'll be there. Let's just hope that Cardiff don't get a new manager bounce. Imagine Neil Warnock comes in between now and then. It's written. Thanks, folks, and we'll see you again.